2, the process of science. In this section, we're going to explore how science actually works. Rather than thinking of science as a rigid collection of facts, we'll focus on how scientists ask questions, make observations, and test their ideas. Whether you're curious about climate change or wondering how medicine is developed, it all starts with the scientific process. By the end of this section, you'll be able to describe what makes a science a natural science, walk through the steps of scientific inquiry, explain the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning, and understand how basic and applied science complement each other. These tools help us understand the biological world, and they show up throughout the course. Natural sciences study the physical world, which means everything from subatomic particles to galaxies. What makes science scientific is its reliance on observations we can measure, empirical evidence, and the use of logical reasoning. Think of biology, chemistry, and physics as part of a toolkit for explaining how nature works. Scientific inquiry often begins with an observation that raises a question. From there, scientists propose a hypothesis, a testable explanation. That leads to a prediction, which is tested through an experiment. The results are then analyzed. Based on the outcome, the hypothesis might be revised and tested again. This is how knowledge evolves over time. An iterative process in science is the practice of revisiting and refining each step of an investigation, from hypothesis to conclusion, as new data and insights emerge. Let's say your classroom is cold. That's an observation. You ask why. Maybe the heat is off. That's your hypothesis. You turn the heat on, expecting it to warm up, but it doesn't. So you test a new hypothesis. Maybe the window is open. This cycle of making predictions, testing, and revising is at the heart of scientific thinking. Let's define a few core terms. A hypothesis is a testable idea. A scientific theory, like the theory of evolution, is supported by a broad body of evidence. A law describes consistent phenomena, like gravity. In experiments, the independent or manipulated variable is what you change. The dependent or responding variable is what you measure, and controls are held constant to ensure valid results. Observation versus inference. Observations are direct, what you can see or measure. Inferences are conclusions based on observations. For example, if a plant is drooping, that's an observation. Assuming it needs water is an inference. Scientists use both, but it's crucial to keep them separate when designing experiments. Let's apply the process. You notice some plants are wilting. You hypothesize that 50 milliliters of water per day is ideal. You test different amounts while keeping all other conditions the same. You measure plant health, like leaf color, growth, etc., and analyze the results. Based on your findings, you might confirm or revise your hypothesis. This is the scientific process in motion. Inductive reasoning starts with specific observations and builds toward general conclusions. If you see geese flying south every fall, you might infer that birds migrate in response to seasons. If you observe antibiotic resistance, you might infer that bacteria adapt over time. Inductive reasoning helps generate hypotheses from patterns in nature. Deductive reasoning works the other way around. You start with a general principle, like organisms adapt to their environment, and apply it to predict specific outcomes. For instance, if a dark forest favors darker animals, you might predict dark colored beetles will survive better. This helps you design experiments to test general rules. Scientists use both reasoning styles. Inductive reasoning is great for spotting trends and forming hypotheses. Deductive reasoning is better for testing those ideas through structured experiments. Together, they form a balanced approach to doing science. Basic science is driven by curiosity. Think of studying how cells divide just to understand how life works. Applied science takes that knowledge and uses it to solve problems, like designing cancer treatments. Often, breakthroughs in applied science depend on years of foundational research in basic science. Science is a systematic way of learning about the world. It uses observation, testing, and revision to build understanding. Inductive and deductive reasoning help guide this process, and both basic and applied science play crucial roles in advancing our knowledge and improving our lives.